The world feels like it's spinning out of control. Rising prices, job cuts, non-stop political chaos. Every day brings a new crisis. But here's the truth. You don't need perfect conditions to find peace. You need a mindset strong enough to thrive in any condition, and that's exactly what the ancient Stoics developed. They didn't run from adversity. They used it. They didn't wait for stability. They became stable within themselves. This episode isn't about escaping chaos. It's about turning it into strength. Because the people who grow during uncertain times aren't the lucky ones. They're the ones who train their minds to stay calm while others panic. If you're tired of feeling lost in all the noise, stay with me. In the next few minutes, we'll explore how Stoic wisdom can help you turn disruption into discipline and anxiety into clarity. And if you find value in this, don't forget to like the video and subscribe. This is Stoic wisdom for turbulent times. Let's begin.
Number 1.
The Lodgepole pine and Amor Fati. Imagine a rugged pine clinging to a windswept ridge. It is the lodgepole pine, a tree whose cones stay sealed until fire roars through the forest and bakes them open. At first glance, that sounds merciless. Why would nature force a tree to endure flames before new life can begin? Yet the struggle is the secret. In the same way, you and I inhabit an era that feels like a wildfire of inflation, layoffs, and relentless technological disruption. The flames are hot. The air is thick. Still, hidden inside this chaos lies the seed of our next evolution, waiting for the right heat to crack it open. That realization rests at the heart of the Stoic practice of Amor Fati, the disciplined decision to love whatever fate delivers. Marcus Aurelius phrased it clearly. The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. When we stop resenting the flames and start cooperating with them, we transform from passive victims of circumstance into active partners with destiny. Notice the mental pivot. Instead of sighing, "Why is this happening to me?" we ask, "What new strength is this shaping inside me?" Consider J.K. Rowling. Before she became the world's first billionaire author, she was a single mother on welfare, scribbling chapters in a cold cafe because she could not afford the heating at home. Rejection letters arrived weekly. Yet rather than curse that season, she faced it with lodgepole resilience. Embracing the burn, letting hardship pry open the cones of her imagination, the adversity she endured forged one of the most beloved literary worlds in history. That is Amor Fati in motion. The fire did not simply test her, it activated her dormant potential. Moreover, and this is essential, the lodgepole metaphor reminds us that adversity is not a detour on the road to greatness. It is the road. After flames sweep through a forest, new light reaches the soil, nutrients are released, and biodiversity flourishes. Likewise, when hardship sweeps through your life, routines burn away, making room for habits, relationships, and ideas that once felt impossible. The Stoics insisted that obstacles are invitations to cultivate inner excellence. Virtue, courage, self-control, wisdom does not grow in the absence of stress. It germinates precisely where the heat is highest. However, loving fate does not require blind optimism or the syrup of toxic positivity. It calls for sober acceptance. Marcus Aurelius, ruling a fracturing empire while bearing children and confronting plague, wrote nightly reminders. This is what nature wants. Welcome it, work with it, become better because of it. He did not celebrate suffering itself. He celebrated the chance to meet it with character. You can do the same each time a headline rattles your peace or a setback tears through your plans. Therefore, when the flames of chaos crackle around you, pause, picture the lodgepole pine, feel the heat, acknowledge the fear, then remind yourself, the fire is not my enemy, it is my catalyst. Say it aloud if you must. By adopting Amor Fati, You choose to view every market crash, every failed launch, every sudden detour as the very pressure that pries open the sealed cones of your capacity. Ultimately, this lesson is simple yet demanding. Love the fire, it will sting, but it will also reveal seeds you never knew you carried. When the smoke clears, you will stand taller, stronger, and ready for the next blaze. Because thriving in chaotic times begins by greeting adversity not with dread, but with gratitude.
Number 2.
Historical examples, turning challenges into opportunities. When life collapses without warning, our instinct is to panic, to mourn, to feel like we've lost everything. But what if that collapse isn't the end? What if it's the beginning of something we can't yet see? The Stoics believed that the worst moments in life weren't just survivable, they were essential. Because in those very moments, you're handed a choice: crumble or construct something better. Zeno of Citium, the man who would go on to found Stoicism itself, didn't arrive at wisdom through comfort. He arrived through disaster. He was once a prosperous merchant, his ships full of goods and his future seemingly secure. But then came the shipwreck, not just of wood and sails, but of identity. Everything he had depended on was swallowed by the sea. And yet that moment did not break him. It redirected him. While wandering through Athens, uncertain and empty-handed, he stumbled into a bookstore. There, he began reading about Socrates. That unexpected moment lit a fire in his mind. He later said, "I made a prosperous voyage when I suffered shipwreck." That's not denial, that's transformation. He didn't ask the sea to return what it took. He asked himself what it was now time to become. And this isn't ancient myth. It's a pattern we see in every generation. Steve Jobs, for example, built Apple from nothing, only to be fired from the very company he created. He was publicly embarrassed, exiled from his own vision. But instead of shrinking, he recalibrated. Jobs would later reflect that being fired from Apple was the best thing that ever happened to him. He regained his creativity, founded Pixar, reshaped the film industry, and returned to Apple with more maturity, more clarity, and ultimately created the most successful products of his life. The fall didn't ruin him, it refined him. What connects Zeno and Jobs is not luck, it's perspective, Stoic perspective. Epictetus reminded us, it's not things themselves that disturb us, but our opinions about them. This is where strength begins, not by avoiding pain, but by assigning it a deeper meaning, not by running from adversity, but by asking what it wants to teach you. You see, what we call setbacks are often just disguised assignments. Life hands you the curriculum. Whether you signed up for it or not, Marcus Aurelius put it plainly, a blazing fire makes flame and brightness out of everything that is thrown into it. That's not metaphor, that's guidance. You are the fire, and whatever life throws, loss, betrayal, change, is kindling. Use it. But here's the key. You must choose to use it. Setbacks won't automatically make you stronger. That's your job. The Stoic path is not passive, it's deeply active. You must meet adversity with a disciplined mind, a quiet strength, and an inner posture that says, this will not be wasted on me. So the next time life strips something away, your job, your health, your plans, remember this. You have not been ruined. You've been rerouted. Zeno didn't see a shipwreck as the end. Jobs didn't see failure as death. They both turned collapse into clarity and then into greatness. This is what Stoicism offers. Not comfort, but composure. Not guarantees, but grounding. And when you truly adopt this mindset, the world loses its power to shake you, because it's no longer about what happens, it's about what you do with what happens.
Number 3.
The obstacle is the way, adaptability and virtue. There's a line you've likely heard before, maybe in a book, maybe in a moment of struggle. The obstacle is the way, It's not just a clever phrase, it's a core Stoic truth. And if you understand it properly, it will change how you face everything that tries to stop you. Not was the way, not might be the way, it is the way. Meaning the very thing you're dreading, the challenge you keep trying to avoid, may be the exact thing that will elevate you, if you're willing to step into it instead of away from it. The Stoics believe that obstacles are not enemies. They are training grounds. Each difficulty is an invitation to practice virtue, to show courage when you feel afraid, to stay calm when everything is spinning, to remain just when it would be easier to lash out. You don't build character when life is easy. You build it when it tests you. Consider Thomas Edison. By the end of his life, he held over 1,000 patents, but when he was in his late 60s, disaster struck. His entire lab burned down in a massive fire. Decades of research, prototypes, notebooks, all destroyed in hours. His son, watching the blaze, expected despair. But Edison looked at the flames and said, "Go get your mother. She'll never see a fire like this again." That night, he didn't mourn. He planned. Within weeks, he was back to work, inventing again, stronger than before. That's not just resilience, that's Stoicism in motion. The obstacle didn't delay him, it revealed him. Now let's zoom out. In modern life, many people search for clarity by eliminating friction, but the Stoics knew better. True clarity is not the absence of challenge, it's the ability to face the challenge with composure and presence. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself, just as nature takes every obstacle and turns it to her purposes, so too can the rational mind convert every adversity into opportunity. The wise person doesn't fight reality, they move with it. Like water shaping to the rocks, like trees bending with the wind rather than breaking. This is the Stoic art of adaptation. When life resists you, you don't panic, you adjust, because each obstacle reflects something deeper. It shows your mindset, your training, and your readiness. It reveals whether you've been preparing for ease or for strength. If you're unsure what this means in your life, pause and ask yourself, what's the recurring challenge I keep facing? That situation, that person, that problem, what if it's not blocking your path? What if it is your path? The moment you stop asking, why is this happening to me? And start asking, what am I being called to strengthen here? That's the moment you shift from victim to creator. You stop waiting for life to get easier. You start becoming someone who's stronger, calmer, more grounded, regardless of how hard life gets. In the end, the Stoic doesn't seek a smooth road. They seek the strength to walk any road, and that strength is born, not in comfort, but in contact with resistance. So when you encounter the next obstacle, don't avoid it, don't curse it, walk toward it. Because the obstacle is not in your way, the obstacle is the way.
Number 4.
The constant of change, accepting life's flux. If there is one truth the Stoics held above almost all others, it is this. Everything changes. Nothing stays the same. Not your health, your wealth, your relationships, or even your own thoughts. Life is not a straight line. It is a constant current. And the people who suffer most are not the ones with the hardest lives, but the ones who cling to what can no longer be. Change to the Stoic is not the enemy, it is the environment. And the wise person does not fight their environment, they adapt to it. Marcus Aurelius, in the depths of his meditations, returned again and again to this theme. Observe constantly that all things take place by change, and accustom yourself to consider that the nature of the universe loves nothing so much as to change the things which are and to make new things like them. This wasn't a passive observation. It was a discipline, a mental practice of letting go, loosening the grip, and moving with the river instead of against it. We can see this principle clearly in one of the most recognized figures of the modern age, Queen Elizabeth II. Throughout her reign, She witnessed over a dozen prime ministers, global economic collapses, the rise and fall of empires, the dawn of digital technology, and seismic cultural shifts. Yet through it all, she remained steady, not by controlling change, but by accepting it, by understanding that her role was not to freeze time, but to serve as a constant presence within it. Her grace didn't come from resisting change. It came from cooperating with it, showing that stillness is not the absence of motion, but composure within motion. And this is precisely what the Stoics meant when they spoke of living according to nature. Nature is not static. Nature moves. It evolves. It lets things go. And so must you. When you resist change, you are resisting the very nature you are a part of. No wonder it feels like suffering. It's a spiritual friction. Now let's bring it closer to your life. Think about what you're holding on to, a version of yourself that no longer exists, a season that's already ended, a plan that didn't unfold the way you imagined. What if the pain isn't coming from the change itself, but from your refusal to move with it? This is why the Stoics trained daily in the practice of premeditatio malorum, the visualization of loss and change, not to become pessimistic, but to become prepared, to remember that everything is temporary and that accepting this is not a weakness, it's a form of wisdom. Because once you accept that things will change, you begin to live more fully in the present. You stop clutching, you start flowing. Seneca said, "He who suffers before it is necessary suffers more than is necessary." Much of our pain comes not from change, but from trying to live in denial of it. But the Stoic doesn't run from impermanence. They walk beside it. They turn each ending into a beginning. They let the falling leaf become the seed of the next season. So ask yourself, where are you resisting the river? What are you clinging to that's already gone? And what strength could you build if you stopped fighting the tide and started floating with it? In the end, nothing stays. But if you meet change with grace instead of grief, then you'll find something better than control. You'll find freedom. And with that freedom comes peace.
Number 5.
Maintaining goodness amidst change. Focusing on what you can control. When the world spins unpredictably, it's tempting to believe that stability must come from outside. A steady job, a stable economy, a predictable relationship. But the Stoics teach the opposite. True stability begins inside. And no matter how chaotic the world becomes, your highest task remains the same, to stay good. This wasn't abstract theory for the Stoics. It was a command. Marcus Aurelius, emperor of the Roman world, surrounded by intrigue, plague, and constant upheaval, wrote to himself, "If it's endurable, then endure it. If it's not, then stop complaining. Your inner self is always capable of preserving its own goodness." That word, goodness, was everything, because while external events might burn, collapse, or disappoint, your integrity, your discipline, your clarity, they are yours to keep or to surrender. Now consider a modern example. Fred Rogers, known to millions as Mr. Rogers. At first glance, he doesn't seem like a Stoic. He was soft-spoken, gentle, kind. But look closer, and you'll see a man who lived Stoic principles with precision. For over 3 decades, through political divisions, cultural shifts, and even personal attacks, he never raised his voice, never responded with cruelty, never abandoned his values. He stayed rooted, and his ability to do that wasn't because the world was kind to him. It was because he was kind to the world, even when it didn't deserve it. This is the Stoic ideal, to be unshakable in your character, to remain composed not because life is easy, but because your internal compass is steady. As Epictetus said, keep your will in harmony with nature. If someone treats you poorly, that's on them. Your job is to maintain your virtue. But maintaining goodness doesn't mean being passive. It means choosing your responses carefully. When someone insults you, can you respond with calm instead of retaliation? When plans fall apart, can you adjust with grace instead of bitterness? When things go wrong, can you rise without resentment? The world will always offer reasons to compromise your values, but the Stoics believe that how you respond in moments of pressure reveals the real you. Anyone can act honorable when they're praised, but can you act honorably when you're ignored, misunderstood, provoked? And here's the deeper truth. When everything around you is changing, your character becomes your anchor. You may lose money, but you don't have to lose your honesty. You may lose status, but not your humility. You may lose comfort, but not your courage. Every day you are given a small but powerful choice: to react or to respond, to abandon your values or to become more deeply rooted in them. That is the beauty of Stoicism. It does not rely on good fortune. It relies on good philosophy. And when you practice that philosophy, not just read it, you begin to notice something. The world no longer controls your peace. You do. So ask yourself, who are you when no one's watching? Who are you when things fall apart? And how powerful could you become if you stopped trying to control everything and instead mastered the one thing you truly can, your own goodness? Because in a world that's constantly shifting, the most radical act is to stay true. And the most powerful person is not the one who controls others, but the one who controls themselves. Number 6, learning from the past, perspective and preparation. It's easy to romanticize the past, to believe that life was simpler, people were kinder, or that some lost era held all the answers. But the Stoics warned against this illusion, not because the past is useless, but because it must be understood clearly, not worshipped blindly. Seneca wrote, "The unexpected blow lands heaviest," and in that short line lies a powerful lesson. The past is not a place to escape to. It's a mirror we use to prepare for what's ahead. Because history isn't just memory, it's preparation. It's where you gather wisdom, sharpen perception, and remove the fantasy that life will ever be without its storms. The people we admire most weren't immune to disruption. They were shaped by it. Consider Maya Angelou, a survivor of trauma, racism, and societal rejection. She didn't just endure her past, she studied it, she understood it, and she used it as material to build her voice. She once said, "History, despite its wrenching pain, cannot be unlived, but if faced with courage, need not be lived again." That is the Stoic mindset in modern form. Learn from what hurt you so you don't repeat it. Turn the weight of memory into the strength of preparation. The Stoics believe that when you fail to study what's come before, you become vulnerable to repeating the same mistakes, not just historically, but personally. How many times have you met a setback you already lived through, but failed to recognize until it was too late? Reflection, then, is not luxury, it's survival. Marcus Aurelius urged himself, "Look back over the past with its changing empires and you can foresee the future too." Not because the future will be the same, but because it will rhyme. Human nature repeats itself. Circumstances echo. And wisdom means seeing the pattern while there's still time to respond well. But here's where many people go wrong. They look at the past and either sink into regret or idealize it. The Stoic path is different. It says, study the past, but don't live in it. Learn from your failures, but don't let them define your identity. Carry the lesson, drop the shame. And preparation doesn't mean living in fear. It means removing the illusion of permanence. It means expecting hardship, not because you're pessimistic, but because you're realistic. It's the difference between being surprised by a storm and being ready for it. That readiness creates peace. This is why journaling was such a vital practice for the Stoics. It wasn't about recording life like a historian. It was about making sense of it like a strategist. to examine your day, your choices, your reactions, and ask, what did I learn? What patterns are repeating? What strength did I lack? And how can I train it tomorrow? That is how philosophy becomes action. So take a moment and reflect. What have you been through that you haven't fully learned from? What keeps returning in your life like a lesson you keep skipping? The Stoic answer isn't guilt, it's clarity. Look at your life without judgment, but with precision, because the more you study your own past, the less likely you are to be blindsided by your future. In the end, you cannot prepare for everything, but you can stop being surprised by what is predictable, and that alone can shift you from being reactive to being ready. The Stoics didn't dwell in the past. They studied it, then stepped forward, eyes open, mind sharp. Number 7, zooming out, gaining perspective. When you're caught in the middle of chaos, pain, or confusion, your world shrinks. A single problem becomes the only thing you can see, and in that narrow focus, everything feels heavier. Every delay feels like failure. Every silence feels like rejection. But the Stoics had a practice for this, a mental tool to restore clarity. They called it the view from above, and today we might simply call it zooming out. Marcus Aurelius, facing political unrest and personal tragedy, would often write himself reminders like this. You can rid yourself of many troubles if you are willing to let go of your opinion that you are harmed, and if you are willing to look at things from a higher place. That higher place wasn't physical, it was mental. It was a discipline, a way of stepping outside the emotion of the moment to observe it from a wider lens. Because here's the truth. Perspective doesn't erase the problem, but it transforms how you carry it. Take astronaut Chris Hadfield. Before he became the first Canadian to walk in space, he trained relentlessly for emergencies, fire, pressure loss, darkness. But what reshaped his mindset wasn't fear of disaster. It was the perspective of space. While orbiting the Earth, Hadfield described the view as both humbling and liberating. From that distance, things looked smaller, arguments, deadlines, status, not unimportant, just manageable, he said. The only thing that truly matters up here is how you respond. That's what the Stoics practiced. A daily discipline of zooming out, not to run from life, but to reframe it, to rise above ego long enough to ask, what's really happening here? Will this matter in 5 years? Am I making a decision from principle or from panic? This isn't detachment, this is mastery. You design your mind to pause before reacting. You interrupt the spiral of anxiety by choosing a higher view. You stop seeing yourself as a victim of every interruption and start becoming the author of your own clarity. And one of the most effective ways to build this habit is through journaling. Not as a diary of drama, but as a tool for perspective. The Stoics didn't journal to capture emotion, they journaled to examine it. Marcus Aurelius used writing to shrink his problems down to their real size, to remind himself that most insults were hollow, that most fears were temporary, that time would dissolve what ego tried to hold. Zooming out helps you realize how many moments you've wasted worrying about things that never happened, and even if they did, most didn't deserve the mental space you gave them. That realization doesn't make you passive, it makes you powerful. You stop chasing validation and start cultivating vision. So the next time something grips you, an unanswered message, a passive-aggressive comment, a plan falling apart, pause, take the view from above, see your life from the sky, your fear from the moon, then ask, does this deserve my peace? Because often the answer is no. Perspective doesn't make you immune, but it reminds you of your scale, of what really matters. And in that moment of distance, you remember, you are not your emotions, you are not your title, you are not this one day. You are a mind capable of rising, observing, and responding with calm. Number 8, catching and throwing, action and response. Epictetus once said, "Life is like a ball game. You don't choose the ball that is thrown to you. You only choose how you catch it and what you do with it afterward." In this simple metaphor lies a powerful truth. Most people spend their lives angry at the ball, complaining about the throw. The Stoic, however, focuses on the catch, and more importantly, on the throw back. This idea is especially relevant in uncertain times, because when everything feels unpredictable, reactive energy dominates. People lash out, break down, or freeze up. But the Stoic trains for this very moment, not by expecting perfect throws, but by mastering their response. Take Viktor Frankl, the Austrian neurologist and psychiatrist, who survived the horrors of Nazi concentration camps and emerged not bitter, but brilliantly clear. He wrote in Man's Search for Meaning, "Between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom." Though his suffering was extraordinary, the principle he discovered is universal. Life throws something at you. You don't control that, but what you do next, that's yours. The Stoics understood this as a form of spiritual athleticism. Imagine training daily, not for how the world should treat you, but for how you choose to respond when it doesn't. That is the essence of Stoic preparation, not seeking fairness, but building strength. And here's where the image of catching and throwing becomes vital. Catching means receiving reality, without denial, without resistance. It means being present with what's happening, even if it's painful. Most people skip this part. They either flinch and avoid, or explode and react. But the Stoic catches with clarity. They feel the weight, and they hold it for a moment before choosing their next move. Then comes the throw. This is where you reclaim your power. You respond, not out of habit, not out of wounded pride, but from principle. You choose action rooted in reason. It could be a boundary instead of a breakdown, a calm statement instead of a harsh reaction, silence instead of revenge. Each throw is a declaration of who you are becoming. This practice makes you less dependent on circumstance. You stop needing the world to be kind. You stop waiting for others to act right before you do. You stop outsourcing your peace to conditions you can't control. And you begin to realize, emotional self-control isn't weakness. It's strategy. It's how you keep your clarity when others are confused. How you keep your dignity when others descend into drama. How you become untouchable, not because you're numb, but because you are centered. So the next time life throws something unfair, something sharp, something completely uncalled for, pause, don't react immediately, catch it, observe it, then ask, what is the strongest response I can throw back? Sometimes that will be action, other times restraint, but every time it will be yours to choose. That is where real freedom begins, not in controlling the world, but in controlling your reaction to it. In the end, you don't get to pick the game, but you do get to train for it. And the better you get at catching and throwing, the less chaotic the world feels. Because now it's not about the throw, it's about the response. The world will keep changing, but your peace doesn't have to, because real strength isn't found in perfect conditions. It's built through clear decisions. The Stoics knew this. They didn't seek control over events. They trained control over themselves. You've now seen how to respond with virtue, adapt with grace, and find stillness in motion. But philosophy only works if you use it. It's not about knowing, it's about living, about pausing before reacting, journaling to gain clarity, letting each challenge shape you instead of shatter you. So the next time life throws something unfair, don't flinch. Catch it, hold it, then throw back something stronger. Your calm, your character, your wisdom. If that's the kind of power you want to build, like and subscribe, because this isn't motivation, it's training, and your inner work starts now.